We live in a world that's filled with noise and endless distraction, but how do we hold on to what's real and keep moving forward towards the lives that we want, especially here in the Caribbean? Today, I'm exploring reality and distraction and why managing both of those is key to progress. Do you aspire to an uncomplicated and fulfilling way of life? I'm Diane Squires, aka Deanne. That's what all my friends call me. I'm an island woman living on the island of Barbados and walking my path to a big and simple life. Walk with me and learn with me. Welcome to the Island Woman Podcast. It's so hard not to see the challenges in our region. Recently, I've been reading a labor market study by the Caribbean Development Bank titled Labour Market Differentials in the Caribbean, Gender, Age, and Indigeneity. The study, it says, was prompted by the COVID-19 pandemic, which, and I quote, said not only focused attention on the vulnerability of the Caribbean, but also laid bare differing intensity of impact on women, and specific population groups such as young people and indigenous tribal populations. Now, many of the challenges that you'll see highlighted in this study are so familiar to us because we live them, we experience them every day. I'll list a few. One is the prevalence of informal work, where people don't have formal employment agreements or legal protections. They have limited access to social security and they face unpredictable earnings. The study even cites the International Labour Organization's 2023 World Outlook and Social Outlook that says that it's as much as 1 in every 2, so that's 50% of employed persons in the region works in this informal sector that is so vulnerable. Street vendors, construction workers, domestic helpers, and some freelance or home-based workers. Another thing that's highlighted is youth unemployment in the Caribbean, which is among the highest globally. Even highly educated young people struggle to find jobs. Some young people also choose not to enter traditional employment pathways. There's also the ongoing challenge of gender inequality, including the gender pay gap, and broader legislative issues around equal access to opportunities. Now, if we add all of this to what we know has been talked about by the World Economic Forum and others who have forecasted, many millions of jobs will become obsolete in the near future. And then we think of the reality of our region where there's natural disasters, hurricanes, storms, even volcanoes. It is so easy to get overwhelmed and distracted by the doom and gloom. But I want to focus on other realities, the hopeful ones, the optimistic ones, and I'll list just 3 here. The first reality is that we can still share. Sharing has been a big part of community living in the Caribbean. As Caribbean people, how often do people turn up at our doors or send someone our way with a bag of mangoes or a breadfruit or some other kind of produce from their backyard or from a relative's backyard? It may be less these days, but it still happens. If we have abundance of something, we give the excess to family and friends, and then we have the option to offer it for sale. But what could that look like if we did it on a larger scale? Maybe community gardens or community markets where the excess can be obtained either cheaply or for free by those people who really need it. I remember when nutritionist Carla Ramsey and I were speaking, she joined me for our health and wellness series just ended. She mentioned how she encourages people to share from their bounty of fruits and vegetables, of produce. We were talking about breadfruit at the time. And by the way, if you haven't checked out that series, you can check it out on the YouTube channel on the health and wellness playlist on the Island Woman Podcast YouTube channel. But back to my point, which is find opportunities to share. And if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, find ways to develop sharing mechanisms at scale. So whether it's food, skills, transport, energy sources, let's take our traditional sharing mentality and expand it for good. But let's never neglect to start with simple generosity. The second reality that we have is we still have the ability to turn off all the noise and the distraction. We can literally turn off social media, turn off televisions for less distraction. I mean, how many times do we wake up and just turn it on? We choose to hear the thousands of opinions, the plethora of negative news, the propaganda disguised as teaching, before we even have a chance to process our own thoughts. For many of us, it's way too often, but we can turn those things off. They don't have to be constant. We can give ourselves the chance to focus on what is important. We can actually look around and see and experience where we are. The wind still blows, the grass still grows, the rain still falls, and maybe we can focus on what really needs our attention each day. The third reality is that we have not lost our ingenuity. Maybe we've been trained not to use it as much, but it's still there. I know that we all see those memes and skits on social media about Caribbean people and how we keep our drawers of plastic bags because obviously we're going to use them again, or how we don't throw away any good containers because again, they can be used for something else, whether we're going to use them as a plant pot, a vase, or we're going to store water in them. In many ways, we are the queens and the kings of what is now called sustainability. At least that's how it was traditionally. We can still save a cent from a penny, as the old people used to say. And for decades now, we actually have formal structures like credit unions and cooperatives to do that collectively. And then we have the traditional meeting turn. And as Caribbean people, we can make any place, under a tree, next to the road, in a park, in somebody's backyard, up on a hill. We can make that a great liming spot. And for those people who are not Caribbean, liming means that we are just socializing with people in a casual setting. We know how to turn the most bland spaces into a good time. And that's probably why our festival and fete industry has become so internationally acclaimed. Now, putting all those things together, just imagine what great things we can do by pairing our ingenuity with a focus on sharing. Look, I battle the doom and gloom sometimes too, but here's how I think we can think about our realities overall and just minimize distractions. We can remember that what we know is valuable, that how we think is valuable, that how we live is valuable, and that many of our traditional practices are actually the light to our progress. We simply need the confidence to say and believe that we have the tools, the intellect, the ingenuity, the relationships, and the value to shape our progress. And that's real. So what's your take? How are you tackling distractions in a noisy world? Let me know in the comments. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. If you have made it to the end of the episode with me, thank you so much for taking the time. If you liked it, share it with a friend or leave a comment or both. And if you watched it on YouTube, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Remember to click the bell icon to get notified every time a new episode goes live. This has been episode 4, season 2 of the Island Woman podcast. I'm your Island Woman, Diane Squires, aka Deanne. Until next time, peace.